So as always in Trumpland, there's a lot to pick apart. There's a lot to talk about. Donald Trump is, of course, on his most recent state visit right now. He's in London, and I thought it would be appropriate to talk a bit about opinion polling on this. There's a lot of other things I want to talk about around his party and his inner circle, because Vance and Rubio have been coming out with some things that I think need to be challenged around free speech. But for this video, I want to focus on opinion polling. And this is from YouGov, so you know it's a well-established source. I suspect other sources would give similar results. This report's by Matthew Smith, the head of data journalism at YouGov. I'm just going to read it out. Before I get into that, very briefly, the Evening Express has a piece on Sadiq Khan, and they entitle it "Sadiq Khan reignites feud with Donald Trump as he accuses US President of fanning flames of the far right." This is by Matt Watts. I'll just briefly read this out because I think the editorial stance there needs to be questioned. Sadiq Khan has launched a series of attacks on Donald Trump as he reignited the feud for the US President's historic state visit. On Wednesday, the London mayor doubled down on his scathing criticism of the president in an opinion piece he wrote for the Guardian newspaper. In the piece, published a few hours before Trump landed at Stansted Airport on Tuesday evening, Mr. Khan said the US president deliberately used xenophobia, racism and otherness as an electoral tactic. And I'll put the rest of that article because there's other things I want to talk about. But firstly, it's not just Sadiq Khan that has criticised Donald Trump. He's not the only politician in this country to do so. Sir Ed Davey has been very vocal about Donald Trump. So why is the Evening Standard not choosing to talk about the Liberal Democrat leader's attacks on Trump? Also, they accuse Khan of reigniting it. Well, in Trump's last visit, the unofficial one to Scotland, Trump publicly, in that press conference to Starmer, said Sadiq Khan's doing a terrible job as Mayor of London. Starmer interjected, actually, he's a friend of mine, and Trump just ignored that. Now, I would suggest to Trump supporters here who are attacking Khan for his criticism of Trump, imagine if the King or Keir Starmer went to the United States and openly criticised the mayor of one of their big cities, like the mayor of New York City, the mayor of Los Angeles, the mayor of Chicago. It's absolutely none of Donald Trump's business how London is being governed. It really isn't. His job as President of the United States is to work on a national level with other countries. He shouldn't be interfering in how cities are governed. Now, to be clear, I'm not a big fan of Sadiq Khan myself. I probably wouldn't vote for him. I do think some of his woke ideology has been very divisive. But the fact of the matter is, the people of London have voted Sadiq Khan into office. Trump should respect that. But of course he doesn't, because he doesn't respect democracy. But you know, all these people attacking Khan for speaking out, it's ironic because the right love to talk about being the safeguarders of free speech. Yeah, when someone criticises Trump, they want to silence them. And that will be what my other video is about, actually, because I think MAGA has exposed its sheer hypocrisy on the free speech issue. But for this one, let me look at... I haven't really followed the events today. Frankly, I don't really want to, because I think this state visit was a mistake. I understand we cannot just ignore the most powerful country in the world. I get that. We have to work with Donald Trump. I get that. But I think Starmer's government was very keen for this state visit to go ahead, and it just seems a little bit like they're placating Trump a bit too much. I mean, when Donald Trump insulted our close ally and friend Canada, that should have been, to me, that should have put the state visit off the table. And let's not forget, Canada is also part of the realm. I mean, the King is head of state there. So I think that this, by extending a state visit to Trump, it's, I don't know, I just think it's too placating. So this is a report from YouGov. This is by the head of data journalism, Matthew Smith. Almost half say it was wrong to issue the invitation, and only a quarter think it will improve UK-US relations. The important thing here is it isn't just the left. With Donald Trump set to arrive in the UK on Air Force One, this was published in September, well, actually it's published today. What do the British public make of the visit, Trump himself and his impact on the UK? New YouGov Sky figures show that half of Britons, 45%, rounding this off, think that it was wrong to invite Trump to come for a second state visit, compared to 30% who think it was the right move. That's a significant difference. I wouldn't say that's close. More than 6 in 10 Labour, that's 62%, and Lib Dem voters 64%, think the President should not have received another invitation, as do 70% of Green voters. Conservatives also tend to see the invitation as wrong, but at the much reduced level of 46%. So this isn't just the left. And this is actually what the figures are. Britons tend to say it was wrong to invite Donald Trump for a second state visit. In hindsight, do you think inviting Donald Trump to make a second state visit to the UK was a right or wrong thing to do? Now this is among all Britons. The right thing to do, just 30%. This is obviously of those polled. The wrong thing to do, 45%. Don't know, 25%. Now, don't know, of course, could go either way, but I think whatever way you gloss that over, it's quite clear that it sways more towards a negative reaction. Amongst Greens, no big surprise, only 10% of Greens think it was the right thing to do, 70% think it was the wrong thing to do, 20% don't know. Labour, 22% think it was the right thing to do, 62% think it was the wrong thing to do, 16% don't know. Liberal Democrat, 16% think it was the right thing to do, 64% think it was the wrong thing to do, that's even higher than Labour, and 20% don't know. Conservatives, it's a little bit closer, but you know, it's still in the negative. 37% think it was the right thing to do. 46% of Conservative voters in this country think it was the wrong thing to invite Trump for a state visit, and 17% don't know. Only Reform, 64% think it was the right thing to do, 17% of Reform voters think it was the wrong thing to do, and 18% don't know. So even in Reform, which is the most pro-Trump party in this country, 17% of people don't think he should have got a state visit. I mean, I'm surprised it's not even lower than that. I think the consensus is obvious. Trump is not popular in the UK, despite the vocal reactions of his supporters here. By contrast, more than 6 in 10 Reform voters back the visit. Whilst 71% of the public do think it is important that the British government maintains positive relations with Donald Trump, separate data from a recent YouGov Times poll show that only 26% think the state visit will result in any improvement. Instead, half, 51%, expect that the trip will make little difference to Anglo-American relations either way. Let's see, how important, if at all, do you think it is that the British government have a positive relationship with President Trump? 71% see it as fairly or very important, and 16% think not at all. Well, I think it's important, but this is my own view. I think it's important, but I don't think we should go out of our way to pander to him. There's a difference between being realistic and saying, okay, he is the President of the United States, America is an old ally, and we have to work with him. But I draw a line at being overly pandering and overly... one of my criticisms of Starmer is he's just too cautious. I think he's just too cautious. He has criticised Trump, but one gets the impression there's just a caution there. And the same with his administration. David Lammy cozying up to Vance. I just think it just looks a little bit... And it wouldn't be the first time a Labour Prime Minister's done that with an American president. I don't need to say anything about Bush and Blair, but anyway. Do you think the state visit will improve Britain's relationship with the Trump government, damage it, or not make much difference? 26% think it will improve relations a lot or a little. Not make much difference, 51%. Damage relations a little, 7%. And don't know, 16%. This is the one European country Trump is visiting, so truthfully Trump probably holds Britain in slightly higher regard than other European countries, but let's not forget his administration has been constantly attacking this country. Let's not forget his administration allowed an opposition leader, Nigel Farage, to come and trash this country, to run it down, to claim that we're in an authoritarian dictatorship, effectively. I mean, that's... If Starmer was to actively go to the United States and, you know, wine and dine with leading Democrats, I don't think Trump would take too kindly to it. Let's see. When it comes to bilateral relations between Keir Starmer and Donald Trump, Britons are divided between 30% who think the PM has been too positive towards Donald Trump. I would be in that camp. I think he has, and should have done more to criticise him, in the 27% to say he's got the balance about right. Fewer, 13%, think Starmer has been too critical of Donald Trump and should have done more to build a positive relationship. So a minority are critical of Starmer for being too negative, but more actually believe he's been too positive. That's interesting. And remember, a majority of Labour voters are against the state visit, so that will cause ruptures in Starmer's base. What do Britons make of Keir Starmer's approach of Donald Trump, and do they think it's paid off? He has been too positive towards Donald Trump and should have done more to criticism. Well, that's what I've just discussed. Yeah, it's laying out all the figures here. I will, of course, put a link to this. And then finally, this section, let's see. How do Britons feel about Donald Trump? Most Britons, 53%, say the Trump presidency has had a negative impact on the UK, including 27% who think it has made a very negative difference. Only 9% see Trump's tenure as having had a positive impact in the UK, while 27% don't think it has had much impact one way or the other. There was a screenshot of some Reform voter I came across the other day, not a big person, but actually saying he hoped that Donald Trump would buy the UK. I mean, can Reform really be taken seriously? I don't know. I personally think their influence is exaggerated. They are getting defections. There's a Labour councillor who went over to Reform today, but I honestly think their impact's exaggerated. Yeah, and that's lay out all the statistics there. 2/3 of Reform UK voters say it would be a good thing if Britain's government was more like Donald Trump's US government. God help us. But that says something. Only the Reform Party thinks that. So just break this one down. This is quite insightful. Do you think it would be a good or bad thing if Britain's government was more like Donald Trump's US government? A very good thing, only 10% of this country. A fairly good thing, 12%. Neither a good or bad thing, 7%. A fairly bad thing, 11%. 52% a very bad thing. I mean, that's pretty clear. And with the Greens, it's worth noting, a very good thing is 0. Exactly 0. Reform UK, 34% think it would be a very good thing if our government was more like Trump's, and 34% a fairly good thing, and only 9% a very bad thing. It's quite clear Reform stands out, but you know, is it really surprising? Reform is led by a man who, I've just got a DVD paused here. Reform is led by a man who's a Trump sycophant. I mean, Farage, it's embarrassing. It goes, I think, beyond friendship. I think Farage is a sycophant. You know, I honestly think the danger with the Farage premiership would be he would just roll out the red carpet for Trump and give Trump everything he wants. I don't think Farage would have the ability to stand up to Trump when he needs to. And that should be, you know, for all the talk of patriotism, I find it astonishing that Reform people are perfectly happy to hear criticism from effectively a foreign government, even if it is an old ally, and a South African billionaire. I mean, that's not very patriotic. You know, it's not very... It's just that they cannot seem to see the paradox of that. Just going to round this up. Full results coming shortly. Well, yeah, I'll put a link to this, but it's quite clear that Reform is different from other parties, and I would say not in a good way. But it's clear that there is no massive enthusiasm for this visit. And it isn't just left-wingers. That's clear that a lot of Conservatives and even some Reform voters are not positive about it. So, it's plain to see. I mean, my thoughts are this man is a criminal. He's a liar. He has shown disrespect to democracy. He has given a platform to our enemy, Putin. I think that I wouldn't be prudent. I wouldn't be so unrealistic as to say that Starmer shouldn't talk to Trump at all. That would be unrealistic, of course. But look at Merz, look at Macron. They managed to deal with the United States without pandering to the United States. I just think Starmer panders a bit too much, to be quite honest. I'm not convinced the state visit had to go ahead. Now, some would say because of the pandering, we've had lower tariffs in other countries, but to me that sounds like give a bully what they want. I just think it's a mistake. I know that Starmer, the Eye today, was saying that he's going to press Trump on Israel and they're going to push ahead with Palestinian statehood. So I suppose, to be fair to Starmer, he can't be accused of just going along, towing the line with whatever Donald Trump wants, to be fair to him. But it's when it comes to, there just seems to be, it's just this thing about the state visit. I don't know why this had to go ahead. You know, relatively early into Starmer's premiership and very early in Trump's second term. And you know, what are we, 7 months into Trump's second term? Starmer's the first European leader to offer a state visit. West European leader. I just think I question it. I mean, if this means a reduction in tariffs, is it worth it? I just think it seems like pandering to a bully. And about the Mayor of London, you know, if the right really care about free speech, they should accept the fact that Khan has a right to his opinion. He has personally been targeted. I saw opinions saying this foreign little man doesn't represent us native Britons. Sadiq Khan is a British citizen. And yeah, I will say it's fundamentally racist to say that he isn't. I don't care for everything Khan's come out with. I do think he's been a divisive figure. But his criticism of Trump enabling the far right is absolutely accurate. It's accurate. I mean, look at some of the people in Trump's circle. Laura Loomer, you know, a far right conspiracy theorist. This isn't made up. This isn't hot air. This is actual facts. I just find it so hypocritical to say it's okay for Donald Trump and his administration to lecture this country, but an elected British politician can't say anything about Trump. I find it rather pathetic to see some of my compatriots being so sycophantic towards this man, so like they lionize Trump. It's like, I would say to them, if you think this country's such an awful dictatorship, do consider moving to Russia or Texas, because really, I'm personally tired of people running this country down. Keir Starmer's not a dictator. He's made some serious errors of judgment. I probably won't be voting for Labour, but this hyperbole doesn't help anyone. I'll put a link to the YouGov study. Yeah, it's plain to see the majority of Britons do not support Trump. I think sometimes it can be misleading, because if you look online, you know, as I find especially Reform voters tend to be very vocal, and Trump supporters here tend to be very vocal, but I don't think they show the whole picture. Just because you have a loud minority don't mean they represent the whole. And most Britons do not think highly of Donald Trump. But I will say this, the special relationship, I'll just conclude with this. It's always been one-sided. It's always been more pro-American than pro-UK. I don't disregard it. I don't disregard ties to the United States at all. But I do favour Starmer's reset with our European neighbours. It's critical. I mean, we need to work with France, for example, on the small boats. And that's not all rosy. I understand that. There's certain things the French could perhaps do more. But I just think it makes all the sense in the world to work with our West European neighbours. And yes, work with the United States. But honestly, I can't wait until January 2029. Because even if it's Vance, he's not going to have a cult following. I really, really, really hope the Democrats restore some sanity to the world stage, because American leadership right now, this won't last forever. I mean, this country isn't going to be, the special relationship isn't going to be just dismissed, but I do question why the state visit had to go ahead. Thank goodness Trump isn't speaking to Parliament, because there'd be a whole furore over that. President Macron did, and it's worth noting more French presidents have addressed Parliament than American presidents. I will wrap this up, but that's what the British public think of Donald Trump, and it isn't overwhelmingly positive. You know, these people who say, oh, Trump is our saviour and Britons want Trump. No, they do not. They just don't. It's not accurate at all. Also, that march, what was it called? Unite the Kingdom. You know, one of the big things was free speech. Well, I do have some concerns about that. I'm not complacent about that. But when people say Keir Starmer wants to take away our free speech, it's a bit ironic that they can openly criticise him with nothing happening. You know, I mean, no one has been arrested in this country for criticising Keir Starmer or the government. There has been controversial arrests over non-crime hate incidents, and I share the concern over that, I do. But if Starmer was a dictator, you wouldn't be able to criticise him. That's the reality.